Boss treated intern like dirt, until his general walked in. The air in the opulent, marble-clad conference room of the Petrova Grand echoed with a tension so thick, one could almost taste the metallic tang of impending doom. Anya Petrova, known for the last several weeks simply as Agnes, the senior intern, stood before the polished mahogany table. Her aged, slightly stooped frame, a deliberate artifice, now radiated an unexpected, chilling authority. Her eyes, usually obscured by a pair of inexpensive, slightly smudged reading glasses that were part of her careful disguise, now gleamed with an unnerving clarity, fixed on the man seated opposite her. A quiet resolve settled deep within her, a satisfaction in knowing the moment had finally arrived. "The game cash-in," she declared, her voice, once an uncertain tremor designed to project feigned frailty, now resonated with a deep, sonorous power that seemed to vibrate the very crystal decanters on the table. "Is over." Cassian Thorne, the hotel's arrogant general manager and Anya's ambitious great-nephew, scoffed, a sneer twisting his perfectly manicured lips. He leaned back in his plush leather chair, a picture of dismissive condescension. His perfectly tailored suit, a symbol of the superficial success he so craved, seemed to mock the ill-fitting, slightly crumpled blouse Agnes wore. Beside him, his sharp-featured assistant, Briar Hayes, snickered, her gaze flicking from Agnes to Cassian with a shared look of contempt, a silent acknowledgement of their perceived superiority. Briar's own tailored suit was a testament to her meticulous, if shallow, attention to outward appearances. "Over? What on earth are you babbling about now, Agnes?" Cassian drawled, a patronizing laugh escaping his throat, rich with a hollow confidence. "Have you finally lost what little sense you had? Perhaps the stress of fetching my coffee has become too much for your delicate constitution." Briar giggled, a sound like glass shards grating against each other, sharp and unpleasant. Cassian waved a dismissive hand, a gesture of profound arrogance. "Honestly, Briar, she's useless. Just another relic taking up space. A pointless corporate mandate we had to endure." Agnes simply watched them, a faint, almost imperceptible smile playing on her lips. It was a smile that promised retribution, a quiet amusement at their profound ignorance, their utter blindness to the truth. Cassian, in his self-important delusion, believed Agnes was merely a senile old woman, a burden foisted upon him by some obscure bureaucratic corporate initiative he couldn't quite fathom. He had no idea he was speaking to Anya Petrova, the 72-year-old titan who had built Petrova Holdings from a single boutique hotel into a global empire. He was addressing the very woman who held his entire future, and indeed, his existence within the company, in her elegantly gloved hands. He was about to learn that the most dangerous opponents were often those underestimated, those overlooked, those treated like dirt. And her general, the true architect of this grand deception, was about to walk in. Her heart, which had endured weeks of their casual cruelty, now beat with a calm, unwavering rhythm. Anya Petrova's journey from a young, ambitious entrepreneur with a single dream to the revered matriarch of Petrova Holdings was a legend whispered in boardrooms and business schools across the globe. She had started with nothing but a keen eye for detail, an indomitable will, and a profound belief in the power of genuine hospitality. Her first hotel, a quaint establishment by the river, had thrived because she personally greeted every guest, knew the names of all her staff, and ensured that even the smallest task, like polishing silverware or folding linens, was done with meticulous care and pride. She had built her empire on principles of unwavering integrity, meticulous attention to detail, and, most importantly, a profound respect for every individual, from the lowliest cleaner to the highest executive. Her hotels were not just structures of steel and glass. They were bastions of hospitality, places where guests felt cherished and employees felt valued. She had always believed that a happy, respected workforce was the true engine of success, far more valuable than any fleeting profit margin. Yet, as the years turned into decades, and the company grew beyond her immediate personal reach, Anya began to feel a creeping unease. The whispers of profit margins replaced the echoes of guest satisfaction. The faces around the boardroom table, once filled with passion and dedication to service, now seemed to mirror the cold, calculating glint of spreadsheets. Her carefully cultivated culture of human empathy was slowly eroding, replaced by a ruthless pursuit of numbers. She saw executives once eager to innovate on guest experience, now solely focused on cutting costs, often at the expense of staff morale and service quality. Her greatest disappointment came from her own flesh and blood. Cassian Thorne, her great-nephew, had been groomed for leadership from a young age, burdened with the expectation of upholding the Petrova legacy. She had personally mentored him for years, trying to instill in him the values of service and integrity. But Cassian, while possessing a sharp mind for figures and an undeniable charisma, lacked the fundamental human empathy that Anya believed was the true bedrock of their success. He saw employees as expendable cogs in a machine, guests as mere revenue streams to be exploited, and the company's illustrious reputation merely as a brand to be leveraged for personal gain, a shield behind which he could pursue his avaricious desires. His generation, Anya observed with a heavy heart, was increasingly driven by an insatiable hunger for immediate gratification and superficial success, utterly devoid of the patience, the dedication, and the human touch that had defined her rise. He represented everything she fought against. The final straw came during a particularly acrimonious board meeting, a clash of ideologies that left Anya feeling a deep chill. Anya had proposed a significant investment in employee welfare programs, better health benefits, expanded training opportunities, and a more generous profit-sharing scheme. She argued passionately that a happy, secure workforce translated directly to better service, increased productivity, and long-term loyalty from both staff and guests. Cassian had vehemently opposed it, citing unnecessary expenditure and a drain on shareholder value. His voice, though smooth, was laced with dismissive contempt. He had gone so far as to suggest outsourcing most of their in-house services, housekeeping, concierge, even some aspects of their signature culinary offerings, to more cost-effective agencies, a move Anya knew would decimate the very soul of the Petrova experience, severing the deep connection between staff and the hotel's identity. She had seen the way his eyes gleamed with avarice, the casual disdain with which he dismissed the human element of their business, the way he viewed people as liabilities rather than assets. It was then that a cold, certain resolve settled within her. She could no longer trust her family or indeed, many of her hand-picked executives, to carry her legacy forward. They were building a golden cage, gleaming and profitable, but it was hollow, devoid of the spirit she had poured into it. Anya knew that true character was revealed not in times of prosperity, but in adversity. She needed to see the unvarnished truth, stripped of titles, power, and reputation. She needed to become invisible, a nobody, a burden even, someone whose presence would test the true nature of those around her. Thus, the audacious plan of Agnes was born, a secret operation of espionage within her own empire. She spent months meticulously preparing. She altered her appearance subtly but effectively. A wig of wispy gray hair, makeup to emphasize wrinkles and dull her vibrant eyes, an ill-fitting wardrobe that screamed unassuming and slightly dated. She even practiced a slight stoop and a shuffling gait, perfecting the image of an elderly woman past her prime, perhaps a little confused, definitely a little slow, a drain on resources. She had always been a master of disguise, a skill honed during her early, more discreet ventures in securing prime real estate, where anonymity was often key to successful negotiations. Agnes was to be the ultimate test, a Trojan horse planted within her own kingdom. She pulled strings using a rarely accessed, anonymous corporate account to create a fictional senior intern program at her flagship Petrova Grand Hotel, a program so obscure and poorly funded that it would attract only those truly desperate for work. She ensured the paperwork was just confusing enough, the official channels just convoluted enough that Cassian, as the general manager, would be forced to take her on, seeing her as a trivial temporary annoyance easily dismissed. Anya wanted to observe him and indeed all her managers and employees through a different lens. She wanted to see their true colors, their reactions to someone they perceived as utterly powerless and frankly a drain on resources. She wanted to find out if the heart of Petrova Holdings still beat with the empathy and respect she had instilled, or if it had become a cold, calculating machine, just as she feared. And perhaps she secretly hoped to find a glimmer of hope, a few truly good souls amidst the growing darkness. The stage was set for her grand experiment, a silent war for the soul of her company. Agnes arrived at the Petrova Grand on a crisp Monday morning, a small worn suitcase in hand, her face a picture of feigned nervousness and slight bewilderment. The sprawling, elegant lobby, a testament to Anya's lifelong dedication, with its gleaming chandeliers and intricate marble patterns, now felt foreign, almost hostile, seen through the eyes of a perceived nobody. She was ushered into Cashin Thorne's office, a cavernous space filled with modern art and cold, minimalist furniture, a stark contrast to the warmth Anya had always envisioned for such a place. The room felt impersonal, a display of wealth rather than comfort. Cashin barely looked up from his tablet as Agnes shuffled in, her carefully practiced stoop making her seem smaller than she was. "Ah, Agnes," he mumbled, his tone dripping with barely concealed annoyance and a hint of boredom. "The senior intern. Look, I don't know what corporate was thinking with this initiative. Frankly, it's a waste of resources, but you're here. Don't expect much. Briar here will show you the ropes." He gestured vaguely at his assistant Briar Hayes, a woman with a perpetually pursed mouth and eyes that seemed to take inventory of every flaw, every imperfection. Briar did not offer a smile, only a curt nod that conveyed her distaste. Briar, without a word, snatched a pre-printed badge from the desk and handed it to Agnes with an air of profound distaste, as if touching something unclean. "Here. Don't lose it. You'll be assisting in various departments, mostly menial tasks. Don't touch anything expensive, don't ask too many questions, and for God's sake, try not to break anything. We don't have time for your limitations." Her voice was a sharp, grating whisper, designed to belittle, to ensure Agnes understood her place at the very bottom of the hierarchy. Agnes simply nodded, feigning a slight tremor in her hands, her eyes wide with a carefully constructed vulnerability. The test had begun, and the initial results were exactly as she had predicted. Her first week was a masterclass in dehumanization, a deliberate attempt to break her spirit. Cashin and Briar seemed to delight in assigning her the most tedious, demeaning tasks, often with a smirk or a condescending remark. She was made to sort mountains of outdated files in a dusty, forgotten archive in the hotel's deepest basement, a task meant for shredders, not people, a clear waste of time designed solely to keep her out of sight. The air was thick with the scent of old paper and neglect. She was sent to collect stale pastries from the breakfast buffet, then dispose of them in the back alley bins, a thinly veiled instruction to clean up after others' waste, a task that could have easily been handled by a cleaner. Cashin would often call her into his office, only to ask her to fetch him a specific brand of artisanal coffee from a specialty cafe 3 blocks away, a blatant misuse of her time, clearly designed to tire her and demonstrate his absolute control. "Hurry along, Agnes," he would say, drawing out the words. "My caffeine levels are dropping, and you wouldn't want to be responsible for the downfall of the general manager, would you?" He would then chuckle, a cold, mirthless sound, and Briar would echo his laughter, their shared amusement chillingly devoid of warmth. Anya felt a quiet fury ignite within her, but kept Agnes's demeanor of bewildered compliance. One particularly grueling afternoon, Agnes was tasked with polishing a vast collection of antique silver in the hotel's private dining rooms. The silver was tarnished beyond belief, a clear sign it had been neglected for months, an unfortunate consequence of Cashin's relentless cost-cutting measures that extended even to basic maintenance. Her back ached from the stooping, a genuine ache this time, but her mind was sharp, observing every detail. Cashin walked in, observing her with a critical eye, his presence radiating impatience. "Still at it, Agnes?" he remarked, his voice laced with mock surprise and thinly veiled disdain. "It's almost dinner service. Perhaps you should just leave it. It's clear some tasks are beyond your capabilities." He then proceeded to lecture her on the importance of efficiency, all while idly scrolling through his phone, completely oblivious to the irony of his own idleness. Agnes, however, noticed the slight smirk Briar gave him as he left, a silent acknowledgement of his petty cruelty, a shared understanding of their power dynamic. Anya, observing from within Agnes's facade, felt a familiar pang of disappointment, but also a growing determination. They were exactly as she had feared, perhaps even worse. Not all interactions were laced with malice, however. There were moments, fleeting and precious, that offered a glimmer of the kindness Anya sought, small beacons in the growing darkness. One morning, while struggling to push a heavy laundry cart through a narrow corridor, Agnes found herself momentarily stuck. The cart, piled high with crisp white linens, was far too heavy for her feigned frailty, and for a moment, her genuine fatigue threatened to break her composure. Just as she was about to call for help, a young man, a bellboy named Kalen Reed, appeared around the corner. He was tall, with kind eyes that seemed to hold a touch of weariness, and a perpetually harried look, yet he always carried himself with quiet dignity, an innate politeness that shone through his demanding work. "Here, ma'am, let me get that for you," Kalen said, his voice gentle and respectful, devoid of any condescension. Without waiting for a response, he effortlessly took the handles and maneuvered the cart through the tight space, his movements strong and efficient. He didn't mock her, didn't make her feel inadequate. He simply helped, his actions speaking louder than any words. "Oh, thank you, Kalen," Agnes said, genuinely grateful, a warmth spreading through her chest. "You're very kind." Kalen offered a small, tired smile. "It's no trouble at all. We all need a hand sometimes." He paused, then added, his voice low and sincere, "You know, if you ever need anything or can't find something, just ask. It can be a bit overwhelming here, especially when you're just starting out." He looked at her with genuine concern, a stark contrast to the dismissive glances she usually received from management. Agnes felt a profound sense of validation. This was it. This was what she was looking for. A true heart among the cold calculations. Kalen's kindness wasn't a one-off. He consistently went out of his way to offer small gestures of support, noticing her without making a show of it. When Agnes accidentally spilled a tray of clean glasses in the back pantry, shattering several, she braced herself for Cashin's or Briar's inevitable tirade, the usual lecture about her incompetence. Instead, Kalen, who was passing by, quickly came to her aid. He knelt down, carefully sweeping the shards into a dustpan, his movements swift and practiced. "Don't worry about it, Agnes," he said softly, his voice calm and reassuring. "Accidents happen. I'll get housekeeping to clean this up properly. Just be careful, you don't want to cut yourself." He even offered her a clean cloth to wipe her hands, a simple gesture of care. Anya, as Agnes, observed his quiet efficiency, his lack of judgment, his innate sense of compassion. He truly embodied the spirit of service she had always championed, a rarity in this increasingly profit-driven environment. One afternoon, Agnes was given the task of updating the hotel's guest database, a laborious process involving cross-referencing old paper records with the new digital system. Cashin had assigned it specifically, knowing Agnes's feigned unfamiliarity with computers would make it a nightmare for her. He wanted to see her struggle, to justify his belief that she was an incompetent relic, a burden to the modern enterprise. Agnes, however, was a master of technology, having overseen the implementation of several cutting-edge systems in her prime, always ahead of the curve. She deliberately worked slowly, making visible mistakes that she would then correct with exaggerated sighs, meticulously ensuring her performance was just convincing enough. Cashin walked in, leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, a smirk playing on his lips, enjoying her supposed misery. "Still on that? It's been hours, Agnes. At this rate, we'll have a fully updated database by the time the next ice age arrives. Perhaps it's best you stick to things less mentally demanding." He then turned to Briar, who had followed him, and loudly whispered, "She's costing us more in electricity than she's worth." Briar let out a suppressed snort, her eyes gleaming with shared contempt. Anya's heart hardened. Their disdain was palpable, a constant assault on her carefully constructed persona. Later that week, Agnes found herself in the staff cafeteria, a bustling space often filled with the quiet grievances of overworked employees, eating a meager sandwich she had brought from home. Cashin and Briar entered, their voices loud and boisterous, cutting through the low hum of conversation. They were discussing plans for a lavish new wing of the hotel, financed by cost-cutting measures that Anya knew meant severe budget reductions for staff benefits, maintenance, and even essential supplies. "We'll really maximize profits this quarter," Cashin boasted, oblivious to the staff around him, his voice echoing with self-congratulation. "Every penny counts, especially when it comes to less essential personnel." He shot a glance in Agnes's direction, a clear insinuation. Briar chimed in, her voice shrill with excitement. "And think of the bonuses, Cashin. We'll be swimming in them. All those little sacrifices will pay off handsomely for us." Their words were like daggers, confirming Anya's worst fears about their avarice, their willingness to sacrifice human well-being for personal gain. She noted the subtle flinches and downward gazes of other staff members who overheard, their silent resentment. Kalen, however, continued to be a beacon of light, his simple humanity a stark contrast to the management's coldness. He often saw Agnes struggling with a task, or simply looking a bit overwhelmed, and would quietly offer assistance, never making her feel like a burden. He would point out shortcuts, explain systems in simple terms, and sometimes he would just sit with her during a break, sharing a quiet moment, a rare respite from the constant performance. He told her about his dreams of going back to school, of becoming a graphic designer, but how his family's financial struggles and the need to support his younger siblings kept him tethered to his bellboy job. "It's honest work, though," he'd said, a touch of weariness in his voice, "and the guests are mostly kind. It's just, some of the management, they don't always see us as people, you know? Just another number on a spreadsheet." He didn't complain bitterly, but there was a quiet resignation in his tone that tugged at Anya's heart. He was a good man, hardworking and humble, caught in a system that valued profit over people, a system she was determined to change. One rainy afternoon, Agnes had been sent on another pointless errand by Briar, to deliver a single, unimportant document to a distant office in a neighboring building, a task clearly designed to inconvenience her. As she shuffled back, soaked and shivering, her flimsy rain jacket offering little protection, Kalen spotted her from the lobby. He immediately approached her, concern etched on his face, his usual harried look replaced by genuine worry. "Agnes, you're drenched. Come inside quickly." He then went to the staff lounge, retrieved a clean, dry towel, and offered it to her, his movements swift and decisive. "Please dry off. I can get you some hot tea too if you'd like. You look frozen." His actions were simple, yet profoundly empathetic. He saw her discomfort, her cold, and reacted with genuine human concern, something Cashin and Briar had never once displayed. They would have probably reprimanded her for tracking water into the lobby, or for taking too long. Anya, as Agnes, absorbed every interaction, every sneer, every kind word. She saw Cashin's casual cruelty, his complete lack of respect for anyone he deemed below him, his self-serving decisions. She witnessed Briar's sycophantic loyalty and her own petty vindictiveness, her delight in others' misery. She saw the fear in the eyes of other staff members who dared not speak up against Cashin's bullying, the quiet resentment simmering beneath the surface. But she also saw Kalen's quiet strength, his unwavering decency, his innate kindness that shone brightly even in the dim light of his own struggles. He was a diamond in the rough, a true embodiment of the values she had tried so hard to instill in her company, a testament to the enduring good that still existed. The data was collected. The truth was laid bare. It was time for the reveal, the time for Agnes to disappear, and for Anya to reclaim her throne. The day of the highly anticipated quarterly board meeting arrived, a day Cashin Thorne had meticulously prepared for, anticipating accolades for his stellar profit margins and his aggressive cost-cutting strategies. He had arranged for a lavish breakfast spread in the main conference room, inviting key stakeholders, influential investors, and several prominent media figures, all to witness his triumph, his coronation as the true leader of Petrova Holdings. He strode into the room beaming, radiating self-satisfaction, Briar Hayes trailing dutifully behind him, her face alight with an expectant smile, mirroring his own hubris. As the meeting was about to commence, the grand double doors of the conference room swung open with a dramatic flourish, echoing through the hushed room. All heads turned, a collective ripple of curiosity. Standing there, not an inch out of place, was Anya Petrova. She had shed the ill-fitting, dowdy clothes of Agnes. She was impeccably dressed in a custom-tailored power suit of deep sapphire, its fabric shimmering subtly in the room's light, exuding authority. Her silver hair, once hidden under a wispy wig, was now styled in an elegant chignon, framing her sharp, intelligent features. And her eyes, once feigned to be dim and unfocused, now sparkled with formidable intelligence and unwavering resolve, taking in every shocked face. Beside her stood her longtime legal counsel and trusted confidant, Mr. Alastair Finch, a man known for his sharp wit and even sharper legal mind, his expression calm and determined. A collective gasp, a mixture of recognition and utter bewilderment, rippled through the room. Cashin's confident smile faltered, replaced by a look of utter confusion, then dawning horror. Briar's jaw dropped, her eyes wide with disbelief, her perfectly coiffed hair seeming to stand on end. They knew Anya Petrova, of course. She was a legend, a reclusive titan. But what was she doing here on his day? And why did she look so regal, so powerful? And why, oh why, did she look so much like Agnes? The pieces clicked into place for some board members, a cold dread washing over them, but for Cashin, the truth was too monstrous to comprehend immediately. Madame Petrova, Cashin stammered, his voice laced with confusion and a desperate attempt at control. What a surprise! We weren't expecting you. Is there a problem? We were just about to present the quarterly results, which are, I assure you, quite exceptional. He still thought he was in control, still believed this was some unannounced inspection, a minor inconvenience before his grand announcement. Anya Petrova walked purposefully to the head of the long conference table, her strides confident and measured, each step a declaration of her return. Mr. Finch moved to her side, placing a slim, leather-bound folder on the table before her, its presence ominous. Anya's gaze swept across the room, lingering for a moment on Cashin, then Briar, a flicker of something akin to pity in her eyes, mixed with righteous anger. "Problem, Cashin?" she echoed, her voice resonating with an authority that left no room for doubt, cutting through the lingering silence like a sharpened blade. "Oh, there is most certainly a problem. A fundamental systemic problem, one that threatens the very soul of Petrova Holdings, the legacy I spent my life building." She picked up the folder, opening it slowly, deliberately, each movement a dramatic punctuation. "You see, for the past month I haven't been Madame Petrova. I have been Agnes, the senior intern you so gleefully tormented, the relic you dismissed, the burden you tried to get rid of." The silence that followed was deafening, suffocating. Cashin's face drained of color, turning ashen, then a sickly green. His eyes darted frantically around the room, meeting the shocked stares of the board members, the incredulous, knowing looks of the media, whose cameras now flashed relentlessly. Briar let out a small strangled gasp, her hand flying to her mouth, her eyes wide with a terror that finally eclipsed her ambition. The reality of the situation crashed down upon them with the force of a tidal wave, crushing their carefully constructed world. Agnes, the clumsy, senile old woman they had mocked and abused, was Anya Petrova, the CEO, the founder, their judge, jury, and executioner. All their petty cruelties, all their dismissive words, had been witnessed by the very person who held their careers, their reputations, and their futures in her hands. Every belittling remark, every menial task, every sneer, every whispered insult, every dismissive wave of your hand. "I saw it all, I heard it all, I experienced it all," Anya continued, her voice gaining a steely edge, though a profound sadness flickered in her eyes at the betrayal. Your greed, Cashin, your arrogance, your complete disregard for the very people who make this company run, it is a cancer. You saw an elderly woman, seemingly defenseless, and you chose to treat her with disdain, with cruelty, with utter contempt. You exemplify everything I have fought against my entire career, everything that threatens to unravel the foundation of this company. Her gaze hardened, piercing through Cashin's crumbling facade. And Briar, your complicity, your sycophantic loyalty, your own petty vindictiveness, it speaks volumes about your character as well. You reveled in the power you thought you held over Agnes, never once considering the humanity behind the facade. Cashin tried to speak, but no words came out, only a choked gurgle. He was trapped, exposed, his carefully constructed world crumbling around him, reduced to ashes. The mask had fallen, and the true face of the Titan was revealed, ready to mete out justice. The immediate aftermath of Anya Petrova's revelation was a whirlwind of stunned silence, panicked whispers, and a frantic scramble for damage control among the remaining executives. Cashin Thorne, once the epitome of confident arrogance, was a pathetic figure, slumped in his chair, his face a mask of abject horror and disbelief. His carefully coiffed hair seemed to droop, his expensive suit suddenly looking like a costume. Briar Hayes, equally shattered, clutched her chest, hyperventilating slightly, her eyes darting frantically around the room as if searching for an escape route, a hole to crawl into. The media, initially present for a profit announcement, now had the scandal of a lifetime unfolding before them. Anya did not waste a moment. Her voice, though calm, held an undeniable force that commanded attention. "Mr. Finch," she commanded, her voice ringing with unwavering authority, "please distribute the necessary documents. The time for discussion is over. The time for action has arrived." Alastair Finch, with a grim satisfaction that only a seasoned lawyer could appreciate, began handing out pre-prepared legal papers with swift, efficient movements. To Cashin he presented a notice of immediate termination, effective immediately, citing gross misconduct, abuse of power, and a complete failure to uphold company values. "Your employment with Petrova Holdings is hereby terminated, Cashin," Mr. Finch stated clinically, his voice devoid of emotion. "Furthermore, all your company shares, which were granted with the expectation of adherence to our core principles, are being immediately revoked. You will also be facing a lawsuit for various breaches of contract and conduct that have come to light during Ms. Petrova's tenure here. This includes, but is not limited to, the misuse of company funds for personal gain, the deliberate neglect of essential maintenance leading to property devaluation, and the creation of a hostile work environment for numerous employees. Your car, your penthouse apartment, even your personal bank accounts linked to company perks, will all be seized or frozen pending further investigation. You will leave the Petrova Grand not as its manager, but as a disgraced, penniless pariah. A statement detailing the reasons for your dismissal and the actions taken will be released to the press within the hour." Cashin could only gape, his mind unable to process the total annihilation of his future, the complete ruin of everything he had coveted, the inheritance he had so eagerly anticipated, the power he had so craved, all vaporized in an instant, a direct consequence of his own actions. Briar Hayes received a similar fate, though perhaps slightly less financially devastating, yet equally career-ending. Her termination was also immediate. Her severance package, which by industry standards would have been generous, was reduced to the bare minimum required by law. Your actions, Ms. Hayes, reflect a severe lack of professionalism and ethical conduct, and a demonstrated complicity in the toxic culture cultivated here. Mr. Finch informed her, his gaze unwavering. You are hereby blacklisted from any future employment within Petrova Holdings, or any of its subsidiaries. Furthermore, a detailed report of your conduct, including your active participation in the harassment of an employee, will be shared with the relevant industry bodies and professional associations. Your reputation, I'm afraid, will precede you in any future endeavors. Briar began to weep, silent tears streaming down her face as her own career aspirations shattered, the vision of her ascent to power now irrevocably stained. The gossipmonger had become the subject of the ultimate, irreversible gossip. The board members, initially shocked into silence, quickly rallied around Anya, expressing their full support and utter condemnation of Cashin's and Breyer's reprehensible behavior. They scrambled to distance themselves from the disgraced pair, eager to prove their loyalty to the company's true matriarch. The media, sensing a story of epic proportions, a corporate titan's undercover mission to expose corruption within her own ranks, furiously scribbled notes, their cameras flashing, capturing every nuance of the dramatic fallout. Anya had cleaned house with surgical precision, removing the cancerous elements that threatened her legacy, exposing the rot from within. But Anya's justice was not merely punitive. It was also restorative, a clear demonstration of her core values. As the room began to clear, with Cashin and Breyer being escorted out by stony-faced security guards, their faces contorted in shame and despair, Anya called out, her voice carrying clearly above the murmurs, "Kaylin Reed, please step forward." Kaylin, who had been quietly standing at the back of the room, near a service entrance, observing the shocking events unfold, looked startled. He had overheard the words Agnes and CEO, and a vague sense of recognition had stirred within him, but the full magnitude of the revelation hadn't quite sunk in. He cautiously stepped forward, his eyes wide with a mixture of confusion and trepidation, wondering why the powerful CEO would call his name. Anya turned to him, a soft, genuine smile gracing her lips, a stark contrast to the stern expression she had worn moments before. "Kaylin," she began, her voice warm and resonating with a quiet sincerity, "you are a rarity. In a time when many chose cynicism and self-interest, when the easy path was to ignore or even participate in unkindness, you consistently chose kindness, respect, and empathy. You treated Agnes, a seemingly insignificant old woman, with the dignity and care she deserved, without seeking reward or recognition. You are the embodiment of what Petrova Holdings truly stands for, the human heart of our company." Kaylin, still processing the surreal turn of events, simply nodded, a flush creeping up his neck, overwhelmed by the public praise from the formidable woman before him. "Because of your unwavering character, Kaylin," Anya continued, her gaze unwavering, her voice gaining a note of proud conviction, "I am offering you a new position. Effective immediately, you are the new head of guest relations for the Petrova Grand. Your salary will be commensurate with this significant responsibility, reflecting the value we place on genuine service and human connection. And to support your personal aspirations, you will have full tuition sponsorship for your graphic design studies, with the understanding that Petrova Holdings will be proud to offer you a position in our marketing department upon your graduation, should you choose to accept. This is not a handout, Kaylin. It is an investment in true talent and true character." Kaylin's eyes widened, tears welling up as he tried to comprehend the magnitude of Anya's words, the sudden miraculous shift in his life's trajectory. He had dreamed of going back to school, of pursuing his passion, but it had always seemed an unattainable fantasy, buried under the weight of his responsibilities. Now it was being handed to him on a silver platter, a future he could scarcely imagine. He looked at Anya, then at Mr. Finch, then back at Anya, a silent question in his eyes, searching for confirmation that this was real. "It's real, Kaylin," Anya affirmed, her smile widening, her eyes twinkling with satisfaction. "You have earned this and so much more. This company needs more people like you, people who lead with their hearts as well as their minds." Kaylin, overwhelmed, could only stammer, "Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. I don't know what to say." He felt a profound sense of relief, of hope, of gratitude wash over him. The weight of his family's financial struggles, the weariness of his everyday grind, the quiet resignation he had carried for so long, all seemed to lift in that single astonishing moment. He had been rewarded not for ambition or cunning, but for simple, unwavering human decency, for being authentically himself. Months later, the Petrova Grand hummed with a renewed energy, a palpable shift in its very atmosphere. The fear that had once permeated the halls under Cashin's regime had dissipated, replaced by a sense of hope and renewed purpose. Cashin Thorne and Briar Hayes were distant, cautionary tales, their downfall a stark reminder that true power lay not in titles or money, but in integrity and character. Cashin had indeed lost everything, his once lavish life replaced by a desperate struggle to find any employment, his name synonymous with scandal, his reputation irrevocably tarnished. He was seen working odd jobs, a shadow of his former arrogant self. Briar, too, found herself ostracized from the elite circle she once craved, her vindictive nature now exposed for all to see. She struggled to find work, her resume marked by the blacklisting, her attempts to secure new positions met with polite but firm rejections. They were living proof that what goes around truly does come around, often with devastating consequences. Anya Petrova, having successfully purged the corruption and restored the company's moral compass, had returned to her executive duties, but with a lighter heart and a renewed sense of purpose. She oversaw the implementation of new rigorous training programs focused explicitly on empathy, respect, and genuine guest relations, ensuring that the profound lessons learned from her Agnes experiment resonated throughout the entire organization, from the newest hire to the most senior manager. She made regular, unannounced visits to her hotels, no longer in disguise, but as the revered CEO, always taking the time to speak with junior staff, to listen to their concerns, to share a meal in the staff cafeteria, to ensure that the culture of kindness and mutual respect she had fought so hard to preserve was not just flourishing, but deeply ingrained. She had found her glimmer of hope in Kaylin, and she was determined to nurture it across her empire, to ensure that such a test would never be needed again. Kaylin Reed, now a confident and respected head of guest relations, thrived in his new role. He approached his work with the same quiet dedication and genuine warmth he had displayed as a bellboy, but now with the authority to implement real change. He championed staff welfare initiatives, introduced innovative solutions for guest satisfaction that prioritized personal connection over cold efficiency, and became a beloved figure among both employees and regular patrons, a living embodiment of the Petrova values. His evenings were spent at university, diligently pursuing his graphic design degree, his mind alight with new possibilities, his future finally open and bright. He often thought of Agnes, the kindly old woman who had changed his life, and smiled, knowing the truth. He knew with absolute certainty that true wealth lay not in what one accumulated, but in the kindness one extended, the respect one showed, and the integrity one maintained. The story of Anya Petrova's daring undercover operation became a legend within Petrova Holdings, a whispered testament to her shrewdness, her unyielding moral compass, and her deep love for the company's original spirit. It served as a powerful unspoken warning to those who would put profit before people, and an inspiring beacon to those who sought to uphold the company's true values of compassion and service. It is a timeless truth that character is not defined by the roles we play, nor by the titles we hold, but by the actions we take when no one, or so we believe, is watching. It is in the shadows, in the moments of perceived insignificance, when power is absent, that one's true nature is revealed. For those who choose compassion, who extend a hand to the vulnerable, who treat every soul with dignity, even when no reward is promised, they often find that the universe, in its own mysterious way, has a profound and magnificent reward waiting for them. And for those who choose cruelty, who revel in their power over the seemingly powerless, the darkness they cast will eventually consume them, leaving them with nothing but the bitter taste of their own folly, a barren landscape of their own making. For truly, the best of character is revealed in the dark, and kindness, in the end, always finds its just reward. If this story of justice and unexpected rewards resonated with you, you're in the right place. Our channel is dedicated to bringing you more inspiring and shocking true stories of people who got what they deserved. Don't miss out on our next upload. Make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell so you're always the first to know when a new story drops. We'd love to hear your thoughts on Anya's bold plan. What do you think was the most satisfying part of the reveal? Have you ever witnessed someone being treated poorly only to see them rise above it? Share your thoughts and personal experiences in the comments below.